There's a town that lies nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains in the great American state of Pennsylvania. The name of the town is White Ash. With a town charter dating back to 1714, it's one of the oldest towns in the country. And as you can tell from how hard those smokestacks are puffing, it's also one of the coldest. Thankfully, the people of White Ash have a secret that's dark and very deep. A secret to keeping warm, bituminous coal. From bituminous coal as a product ingredient comes heat, power, transportation, and necessities and luxuries almost beyond count. And where, you might ask, does all that coal come from? The answer is places like Alden Mountain and towns just like White Ash, where it's dug from the mountains by the hardest working men in America, our coal miners. But while an industry supports the town supports the industry. Here are two of White Ash's finest young entrepreneurs, Catlin and Kyle, owners of the Double K gas station. Coming or going, they'll get you there. But a town can't be all work and no play. Hello, Alec. Hello, Lillian. Where are you two kids going? Why, they're going to Sif's. Don't let its Nordic theme fool you. The most popular place in every American town is the local diner, and Sif's is no exception. Home to the world-famous Stack Attack, Sif's have been filling the bellies of White Ashians since 1895. Yes, White Ash, founded by men who came from the four corners of the earth, bringing with them innovation, can-do spirit, and dark, dark secrets.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
All right, guys, we are back. My camera's still spazzing out a little, but that's not going to stop us because we're going to bring in two guys who have had absolutely massive years but can totally understand being spazzes. Garrett, Gunn, and Frank Gogol. What's up, guys?
What up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's been a fun weekend, and I'm glad to have more familiar and friendly faces here on the screen. Some guys that I know I could just goof off with and like not have to worry too much. So let's start here. Let's start at the very beginning. You guys have both had kind of massive years. Like 2020 for both of you were pretty good years.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Frank's had a big year.
I gained like 10 pounds, so yeah, huge year.
Well, but Garrett, you had all of 2020 with Franklin and Ghost happening, and the shelter division stuff, and all this other stuff.
Oh, that's Bob. How dare you?
Or that's Bob. Sorry, that's Bob.
Damn. See,
I just did a hey. It's the first time I've done that all weekend. Lone Wolf Legion stuff.
Last Wolf Legion. That's right.
Almost there. Almost got it that time, Kyle.
Last Wolf Legion stuff. Yes. Last Wolf Legion has had a great year. Yes.
Guys, I've been behind the mic for something like 32 hours this weekend. So
we can make it. We can make it.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. As long as I don't mess up my next panel, I think I'll be fine. But the guy on my next panel is going to make me disappear.
Yeah.
So didn't you start this by saying this would be the easy one?
He did say that.
I don't have to worry about it. But then I jinxed myself.
No, it's not
so, all right. One of you go first and tell us about the year you've had.
Go ahead, Frank. Lead him in.
All right, so we're 18 days into 2021, and mostly nothing's happened so far. So that's pretty good. That's the year I've had so far.
Let's talk about 2020. You had a big 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Well, I mean, it was a garbage year. It was a bullshit dumpster fire year. Obviously, we had some issues with public health and whatnot, something like that. But released a book called No Heroin, and it was pretty solidly received, sold really well. it was kind of one of those things where I released Dead End Kids, and that did really well. And it was kind of like my freshman miniseries release. And, there's always like that worry that you're going to, have a sophomore slump on your second book. But happy to report that, unlike Franklin and Ghost, the follow-up to Dead End Kids, No Heroine, did really well. And it was a lot of fun. I got to spend a lot of time at home, which was kind of cool, even though the circumstances sucked. Probably saved my marriage. 20 cons in 1 year is a lot. But 2020 was it was good. I got my first work for hire gig that I can't talk almost anything about. Garrett knows what it is. It's very exciting. It's huge for me. No complaints other than pandemic and not being able to leave the house and being stuck with my wife all the time.
Garrett?
I mean, Frank is so good at passive aggressively tearing others down to make himself look better. Or maybe not so passive aggressively. But unlike Frank, I had a great year. Yes, there was a pandemic, but I stay in my house all the time anyways, because I'm literally a fucking gremlin. I got to watch my mouth, I think, on this, right? I can't say.
No, you're good.
Oh, I'm good. All right, cool.
Thank God.
So I'm a gremlin, so I never leave the house anyway. So really this year hasn't felt any different to me. And I just got a ton of stuff done. It's amazing when you're not traveling to conventions and wasting time in the real world, how much writing you can get done. We released a Warcorns miniseries 1 through 4, a brand new story with some new characters, tying some story back into the Franklin and Ghost universe to sort of remind the readers that this is set in their world. And we got like 6 other books planned that we've been working on. We finished the full trailer for the Franklin and Ghost TV show. We got the pilot. The pilot's written. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that.
It's okay.
And I took a bigger role at SourcePoint recently as the production manager for basically all the variants that the company produces. So 2020 for me was about trying to elevate myself above being just a creator and trying to get more involved in helping the rest of our team be as successful as I can. So
that was the big thing I wanted to talk about. Was you got a new job there at the Source Points?
I do.
Extracting more money out of my wallet, essentially.
Yeah, so, trying to wrangle all the creators for Frank to take all their money.
Yes,
it's true. So what is that like now, kind of stepping out of that role of creator into company man?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. Like it's a weird. I mean, it's also like very humbling because like I'm used to just doing what I want, and now I have to like ask for permission to do things from people. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to put your hands in a lot of pots, right? Like things that I never got to mess with before. Now I get to be like, hey, I want to help facilitate, this thing for, Claim or, for Dead End Kids or whoever. And I want to try to get some awesome artists, to bring in for a variant on whatever book, I just think it's, I don't like to stay still very long. It's one of the unfortunate side effects of my disabilities. But so this kind of gives me the opportunity to constantly do something different. And it's a lot of fun.
And I think that's true of both you and Frank, is you guys you're never not doing something. You're always working, always promoting, always hustling. And that's also an attribute of SourcePoint. So talk about that. Take a minute and talk about that drive and what instilled that in both of you to keep working, keep producing, always be hustling.
I mean, go ahead. Garrett, take this. No, after you.
You're gonna let me take this? I honestly, I think it's a testament to the talent that we surround ourselves with. Like I think that the only reason I push so much is because I see people like Frank and I see people like Bob and I see people like Dirk and I see all these people that aren't fucking around. And I'm like, I've got to try to keep up. And like there's always new people like that are, you know, pushing more and more and more. And so I think like, for me, it's just a catch-up game. It's like all it is. Like it's trying to just stay with the pack, really.
Frank?
Yeah, everything Garrett just said is true. We do have an incredibly deep talent bench at SourcePoint, and it's, you know, it's kind of weird. Like as a creator, I think this is true for a lot of creators. You know, you kind of feel like you're in competition with your peers. You know, I've got buddies who are getting miniseries at you know, Image and Aftershock and other places, and it kind of makes me think like, oh wow, why aren't I doing that? And like, yeah, that can be a really kind of toxic feeling. Like, you know, you get down on yourself and start comparing yourself in ways that aren't really applicable. But at SourcePoint, like there's like a healthy version of it, because you've got all these people kind of lifting you up and you know, rooting you on. You know, and we all kid around, but you know, at the end of the day, I like Garrett, I love Bob, I love Casey. Everybody who's involved there, I want to see them succeed, and I think that's a mostly mutual, you know, feeling, with the exception of Garrett. So no, I want to see Garrett succeed, and actually Garrett is one of the few people who actually does make me feel those toxic feelings. I see him with all his logos for his like 500 projects. I'm like, I really should be writing something else right now. So like in the end, it works out. But yeah, it is a really good environment, and you just had Travis on, and Travis can be a tough ass. I know he likes to tell Garrett that his ideas are shit. I've heard that line a few times before, but it comes from a place of love and makes us want to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I have video on my computer right now that if I had permission to play it, where it's just Travis going, well, this is no good, and this is no good, and this is no good. And it's all stuff that's come out because everybody who he says that to works hard and makes it better and listens to their editors and listens to their creative team. And like, that's, I think, the great point about SourcePoint is that everybody is working for the common good, even Dirk. And we say that just because he was on earlier. Like, we make fun of everybody, busts each other's chops too, which is a kind of a strange relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like Frank said, like, you know, when, you know, he talked about getting his first work for hire work, and like, I know what it is. Like, when he told me, I wasn't remotely jealous. Like, it's a phenomenal gig that he's got, and I'm just happy to see like that somebody on our roster is getting the recognition they deserve. You know, because like,
absolutely,
then that's more coattails I can ride.
Exactly. Well, that's what it is. It's coattails, and if everybody has coattails and it's the big coattail train, like everybody starts moving faster.
We just pull everybody.
It's like a big old, you know, human centipede.
All right, so I was talking to Bob Layton yesterday, and he was talking about how back in the day, everybody at Marvel, when he was there, was looking at everybody else's work and trying to one up them. When you put out a project, are you worried? I don't want to say that worried. I don't want to say it that way. But when you release a project or you work on something, do you worry about what the next guy coming is going to do, or are you just or what your friends have done, or are you just trying to one up your previous project?
I don't think
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody who's ever read anything I've made thinks that I have given any thought to what the public thinks or other creators. Like you know, I've said this in numerous interviews. Like, everybody, you know, that I knew when I first got into comics was like, I want to be the next Robert Kirkman. Like, I want to make the next Walking Dead. Like, I give absolutely zero shits about making anything just to make a successful comic. I'm trying to make something that's fun and that I enjoy making, and that hopefully that, you know, drives readers to also have the same amount of fun. Because if you're constantly thinking about, you know, how you have to one up each other, like, you're going to lose sight of like the, you know, the true thing that's important in this, which is comics should be fun. They should be entertaining. They should be enjoyable, and it shouldn't be a, you know, a measuring contest.
Yeah, just second everything Garrett just said. It really, I don't know. I personally, like I said, those feelings like of competing with other creators can be really toxic, and like, you know, I'm not like immune to them. Like I said, I feel them sometimes, but it's such like it's so unimportant to me, like what other people are doing. Like, if Casey's book sells 10,000 more copies than me, I'm happy for Casey. If Garrett does, I might get a little concerned. Well, you've seen what
rightfully so.
Yeah, I love Franklin and Ghost. Yeah, I could never write that book. So it's not even something that we could compare anyway. Like Dead End Kids is not fun. I didn't have any fun writing it,
and I didn't have any fun reading it. So it's perfect.
No, yeah, but no, my measure of success, like in like a really woo like self-help kind of way, is like, am I better today than I was yesterday? And when it comes to releasing books, it's what are the pre-orders for issue 1? Dead End Kids did X. No Heroine did 2X, and Dead End Kids 2, which just got its pre-order numbers in for the first issue, did this much better than No Heroine. As long as those numbers are at least staying the same and going up every time, like that tells me everything I need to know. It means people are liking the books and they're coming back for them. It means more people are finding them, and those are just kind of like the really basic metrics that you should pay attention to. And at the end of the day, I like what I'm writing. Like that's the most important thing. If no one pre-ordered it and I loved it, at least I'd still love it. It's a little less satisfying that way. It makes it a little. I do like making money, so please keep buying the books. But yeah, like it's being in competition with people like creates divides, and working with people and helping people move along makes a company succeed. Like if you look at SourcePoint Press, the company's been around since. Like, I don't know, what does the publishing indicia say on the inside of all the books? Like 2012.
Shit.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's a while.
2014, I think they put their first book out. So in a 5-6 years, like they've really taken a share of the market, found like a really nice group of creators who are putting out like a really diverse quality set of content. And honestly, you said like we like to rib each other and like kind of like, get on each other's, backs and stuff. Like that's because it's not like only a publishing company. Like in like a real way, it's very familial. Like it's the difference between the Avengers and the X-Men. Like a lot of publishers are the Avengers. They're a team of people who do this thing. The X-Men are a team of people who do this thing, but they also like, have all this drama between them and share hotel rooms and sleep on floors and shit like that. Like, I mean, maybe that's not what the X-Men do, but that's what we do.
Yes. And I think like that's the thing is like I don't think you should look at anything you make as being in competition with other creators. I think you should look at everything you make as being in competition with yourself. Like I think that you look, like Frank said, you look at the last thing you made and you figure out how this next thing can be better. Even just not in sales numbers, in quality, in everything. I think that every time I make a new Franklin and Ghost book, I mean, you can look at the trade paperback and you could see the evolutionary process of like how much better the art and the writing and stuff got, because it's like I always was like, fuck, like Nick, we did a great job, but like this next one needs to be better. We need to step it up. And I think that you should always do that with like everything you do.
So let me ask it this way. When you started to have some success, where do you find the momentum inside yourself to one up yourself? What about, where do you find that drive?
I mean, I was gonna say extreme depression and imposter syndrome. I think that's probably the answer. I don't really know, other than like I'm not really sure. I just have a desire to make, like, to see, when I first came to SourcePoint, Travis McIntyre, when I had my first phone call with him, he told me, he said, all right, kid, we don't do time travel. We don't do superheroes. I've done both of those things since I've been at SourcePoint. And I think that, for me, the gauge is Travis, because I'm constantly trying to see what I can get away with at the company. And the next thing has to be weirder, and he'll tell me no, and then we do it anyway. And then he'll tell me the next thing is that's a shit idea. We're not doing that. That's dumb. It'll never sell. And we do it, and it sells. And it's just, that's my motivator, is continually trying to convince Travis that he's the one with the shit ideas and not me.
Which is not very hard, it turns out, because we put out like 10
it's
books.
It's not. It's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll never know how good a writer Travis is and like how good his ideas are, because we'll never get Up the River #2. Which, if we're going to start any hashtags today, it needs to be Save Up the River.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Travis's Huckleberry Finn meets Mad Max story that he had one issue of created. And it is, I'm going to say this in full honesty, it is the best thing Source Point has ever put out. And he refuses to finish it.
I think he actually might be finishing it. I might have seen some future solicitations with maybe some hints at Up the River continuation, but
you've got my attention.
Yeah.
So we'll ask a question, and I'm going to ask it a little differently. You're both writers, so if you guys were going to collaborate on a story, and I'm sure you guys have had this conversation, if you guys were going to collaborate on a story, what kind of story would you tell?
A really, really schizophrenic one.
Yes, that's it. Frank and I have talked about multiple times, like, working on stuff together, like, and we've both thrown out ideas of stuff to work on together. And like, I think it just has to be the right thing, because I think, like, especially recently, I've been trying to like team up with people that are very different from me in terms of storytelling and like their approach and everything else. And Frank to me is like, he's my Bizarro Superman. Like, Frank to me is the opposite in so many ways of his approach to writing and his storytelling abilities and stuff, that I think Frank's going to try to insert a jab here because he sees an opening. But
I haven't. Just slow down. It is true. We are opposites. I write full script. You write,
it's true.
Whatever it is you write. It's like paragraphs with like doodles. I write well. You do not. So like it's really hard. I got it. All right, you can cut back.
Okay. All right. So so I think to me, it's about finding the right thing that those things kind of converge at the right point. And like, we've gotten close a couple of times, but I really respect Frank and the things he's made. And I think that it just is it has to be the right thing. But I would love to work with Frank on a book.
Dead End Fox. Let's do the crossover into the No, real talk. Like, that's one of the things that's really great about Source Point is that because everyone's so close, there's room for a lot of collaboration in the creative process. Like, I definitely bounce ideas off of Garrett, have him read things. Same with Casey, send stuff to Travis for him to tell me his shit and then keep doing it anyway. You'll see, especially I think into the next year, that we're going to have a lot of things come out that are co-produced between writers. I know Garrett's got, is it Good Boy?
Good Boy with Christy Blanche.
I know that Christy's helping Bob on the second volume of Broken Gargoyles. So like there's like cross-pollination happening already. Like Garrett said, it's just going to come down to the right project at the right time. Garrett's got a billion things going. I have really big writing plans for this year. We're starting work on a sequel to No Heroine. I think I have one more Dead End Kids story to tell. There's a new property sci-fi horror thing that's coming up next after Dead End Kids 2. So there's a lot of things going on, and it really will just come down to time. But I would be very surprised if on my 99th birthday I die and we haven't done it yet.
So I guess the next pertinent question is, Frank, when are you doing a book with Dr. Christy Blanche?
I don't think I'll ever do one with Christy. And it's not because I don't want to, but it's because I enjoy her writing so much that I would always want to be on the outside of it so I can enjoy it with fresh eyes. I remember reading Charlie Wormwood for the first time in Denver last year. And I think that's when I met Christy. It might have been that show or the show before it. And I ended up spending a bunch of time with her at her table away from the Source Point booth and just watching her sell. I don't know if she's watching this, so she's going to be mad if I tell the story, but
tell the story.
She's not great at hand selling her own stuff. She does the comic book shopping network. She can sell comics like it's no one's business. But when it comes to selling her own book, she just can't do it. Like, somebody came up to buy a set of Charlie Wormwood comics, and she was about to close the deal, but then she said, no, let me just give them to you. Like, I mean, she's totally backpedaled out of making money, and I had to be like, no, Christy, no. Yeah, she is really just an incredible mind. Like, I mean, she's obviously the smartest person and whatever. Yeah, so reading her stuff is really satisfying for me. So I don't think I could ever be involved with it because I'd want that experience to be very pure. That said, yeah, if I can ride her coattails a little bit, I absolutely will.
That's what's so funny is that, like, for someone so incredibly talented, she sabotages herself constantly.
Well,
like,
she's a writer.
Yeah. And like the same, I've experienced the exact same thing with Christy at a show. And I'm like, Christy, no, like, take their money. Like, that's, you spent so much time and energy making this book, and it's great, and they want to give you money for it. Take their money. Like, I don't understand.
You know, she's one of our shows on here, and Christy has so deep roots in the industry and so many friends. And it's like, Christy, do you want to talk to your friends and interview your friends? Oh no, I'll let somebody else do it. Really? Come on. Like, so
she's doing Princess Leia panels and Doctor Who panels with like real people who matter.
That's not true. She interviewed Bob. We know that's not true.
That's true.
With them. Maybe I don't want to read her stuff anymore. I
don't know. We love you, Christy.
We do.
So let me ask this question. Because we've talked about collaboration, and you can't pick each other because we already talked about that. Is there somebody out there who's on your radar that you're like, that's the next person I'm going after to try to collaborate with?
Are we talking about artists or writers, or are we talking about
human people?
Human people
at source
or
in general.
Anybody.
Like
alive,
like dream gig or realistic.
I was gonna say this is a loaded question, man. Like, you know,
right.
It's yeah.
Garrett wants to write a book for Magnolia to draw. Like, I mean, that's the end of the story.
That's it. Yeah,
we know each other. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna assume I understand the question, and I would love to have David Aja draw a book for me. You know, Hawkeye, The Seeds, Iron Fist. Before Kirkman was putting out Firepower, I had dreams of doing the Perfect Iron Fist book with him, but now the Perfect Iron Fist book now exists. But yeah, I like a simple kind of clean style, like clean panels and really easy to read art. And David fits into that, or Chris Somney, or in kind of the other direction, maybe Andrea Sorrentino, you know, somebody with like a real strong sense of graphic design to their art, like, you know, definitely one of those three. Maybe David Mack on the very other far end of the spectrum.
Like for me, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'd love to see David Mack's take on No Heroin. Like, just throwing that out there. I think he'd do something that would blow.
No, I did send him an email. Cover. He has been reached out to about doing a cover, but I never heard back. He might be too famous for me these days.
Well, I think, like, you know, I like think back to, you know, earlier when I was like first starting, and like I got the opportunity to work with people like Peach Momoko, which, you know, Peach Momoko, you know, is a huge deal right now in comics. And like, you know, I knew her in 2015 at Wizard World. Like, she was doing, you know, headshot. Yes, absolutely. You know, doing, you know, she's doing Shikishi board like busts for people for $75 and like fully watercolor crazy pieces. And now, like, you got to be on her schedule's like a year and a half out. And so, like, I've always found it very intriguing to try to find like people that aren't necessarily in comics or don't work in comics, or people that have a very different style from traditionally like how comics look, and trying to get them involved in stuff. And recently, you know, since I've taken over the like Source Point variant stuff, I've started looking a lot into like Korea, and there's a really huge market of fine artists in Korea whose styles are incredibly fitting for comics, and like they just don't do it. We're working, on a variant for Cult of Dracula by Sehun Jung, who I think he goes by Mipopa is like his art name, and the man like is painting things that could probably be in a museum somewhere. And they're all like the most humble, like, oh, you want me to do a comic book cover? Sure, that sounds fun. Like, those are the people that I want to work with, all of those people. More than anybody who's in the industry, like, those are the people I want to work with because they're the most fun. Because it's uncharted territory for them.
I've recently gotten a chance to meet a couple of young artists that are just sort of breaking in from the Korea, from South Korea, from Taiwan. Where was the other one from? Kazakhstan.
Borat?
And it's like, and this person, they're like, we're trying to break into comics. And I'm going, how do you discover comics? And he goes, we don't have them in Kazakhstan. I had to find them when I went to college somewhere else. And he's like, now I want to work in comics, but he's a brilliant painter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, keep submitting because it's gonna happen. He's that good. Yeah. So it's true. I mean, that it's entirely possible that the dream collaboration is somebody who's not even in the industry yet.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I'm gonna ask the question, but you already kind of alluded to it, Garrett. Franklin and Ghost has been in development for a while. We've been hearing about it. You said you've got the pilot done and the trailer's done.
Mm-hmm.
Or the pilot's written and the trailer's done.
Pilot's written and the trailer's done. Yep.
Where are you at in the process? Like, other than that, like, what's happening that you can tell us about?
So what I can tell you about is, I can tell you nothing about the production or studio stuff more than I already have. But I will say that, like, our goal now is starting to, now that Franklin and Ghost is sort of lined up, like, our what we've been doing is looking sideways, right? Like, looking at other things that can be brought into that world that can sort of, we can take advantage of the fact that, of what we're doing with Franklin and Ghost. A lot of my books exist in the same universe, Warcorns, Cold Dead Hands. And so for me, it's okay. We've got Franklin and Ghost now. So now let's bring Cold Dead Hands into it. Now, how can we start developing Cold Dead Hands so that it's ready for when it's time for that to step in, in Franklin and Ghost show or whatever else. The biggest part of that was Warcorns. With, this new campaign and this new book, we decided to do an audio drama of the comic, which was sort of our way to be able to make a cartoon without a cartoon. It reminded me of like the old, like, Power Records, right? That Marvel used to do. You put the 45 on and it would be like Captain America saves the day. And to me, being able to, like, create a new experience or a hopefully, more unique and diverse experience for the reader, and also start to build our animated universe without, putting too much in the world, was the goal. So we brought in a bunch of voice actors, professional voice actors, brought in a full studio, full setup, full everything, and produced a professional, audio drama with these actors that's coming out in like a couple of weeks, as sort of a tease to people of what they can expect quality wise with the TV show and with anything we make. So, while Franklin and Ghost continues to push forward and we continue to just make everything, where things are at is that we're trying to culminate more than just Franklin and Ghost. We're trying to be ready with multiple IPs and multiple character rosters that can be brought into this show to make it as jam-packed awesome as we can. So
when you write, and I've heard this from many, many people, and I'm sure it's true, I'm sure you hear the voices of the characters in your head. What's it like to hear those voices come out of someone else's mouth and maybe be slightly different?
I think it's kind of hard, actually, because, like, I feel like you do. I mean, to a point, I sort of agree with that, right? Like, when I write, I don't really think of like voices in my head, more so just like how somebody would talk and, you know, sort of the attitude that they have, you know, behind their voice and stuff. And you always go into it. I've done this like 3 times now, walking into a studio with these voice actors being like, here's the script, here's the character sheets, here's this, like we're doing auditions. And you go in with this idea of like, this is how this character sounds. And then you get an actor that comes in and does a read that makes you doubt that, because it still has the same, you know, they still have the same, you know, vibe in their voice, but they bring a sound that you weren't expecting. And it's like, I'm like, scrap all of this. I've got to change it. I got to change it all. This is now the voice, because this is too good. This is so much better than I could have, you know, imagined or expected out of this character. So I think you do hear voices to an extent when you write. But I think it's so weird. It's such a weird experience to try to sit down and make it real. Like those voices hardly ever in the experience, the 3 experiences I've had, those voices hardly ever are direct, you know, link to what it ends up being.
So, Frank, give us the rundown, because it's in previews now, or it's in previews in 2 weeks. I forget the exact dates, but Dead End Kids Volume 2. Give us the elevator pitch. I read it so long. I read it. You sent it to me, and I'll be honest. I just sent Travis my email order then, and was like, "All right, just here, take my money." You know, so I don't even know exactly what the release schedule is anymore. Sure. But give us the elevator pitch on Dead End Kids Volume 2.
So Dead End Kids Volume 2 is called Dead End Kids: A Suburban Job. It's kind of a true detective approach to Dead End Kids. The first book was like a much bigger success than anyone kind of expected, and I never really planned to do more. And when I started thinking about what a second book would look like, I didn't really want to kind of do the same thing over again. So this is a new cast in a new place, new time period, new crime, new everything. So it's looks and feels like the original series, but really is its own thing and is completely accessible to new readers. This one takes place in 2008. It follows 3 sort of former friends who have fallen out over the years, who are also all the children or relatives of victims of 9/11 in one way or another. So we've got the daughter of a first responder who died on September 12th at Ground Zero. We've got the brother of a soldier who was killed in Afghanistan. And we have a young Pakistani American woman who's kind of dealing with a post 9/11 America where racial tensions are really exacerbated and things are not great for her and her family. And like I said, these are friends who over the years, there's a lot of animosity between them for reasons when you're reading you don't really know yet. And they kind of get sucked back together when they find this item that belongs to a local drug dealer who wants it back. And you know, they have to figure out how to get along long enough to survive the experience, to stay off his radar, and to pull off kind of a low-key suburban heist that you know, only teenagers could do. No money, no tech, no cars, just this really, you know, what's in the garage kind of thing. And it's you know, like I said, it's in the vein of the original series. I wanted to do something that was different though, so we did a sort of kind of heist story. But at the core, it's really about these kids and what they're going through, sort of 7 years after 9/11, what their lives are like, and in a lot of ways, it's a reverse version of the original series because these kids aren't this tight knit group of kids who can rely on each other and take care of each other, and you know, so yeah, the first issue drops on January 27th. We just found out a couple days ago that the first printing, all 3 covers of the first issue have sold out at Diamond. Issues 2 and 3, pre-orders are really strong on those. The 4th issue is about to hit previews for next month. That'll be the last issue, so it's a 4-issue mini. For people who read the first one, it's more of probably what you love the first time around. If you haven't read the first one, you don't really need to. And I'm pretty excited about this one because I think when I wrote the first one, it was my first time writing a miniseries, and I kind of got lucky that people received it so well. Like, you know, looking back on it, I think it's a good book, but it could have been a total wash. I've since written a couple more miniseries and done the production thing a few more times, and have a really good sense of what the series is about. This is, for me, the better of the two, and if I had to hand somebody one of the two volumes, this would be the one I would hand them. So I'm pretty excited for people to finally get to read it and kind of see the Dead End Kids universe get a little bit bigger.
Cool. Let's go back to when you were. No, I can't elaborate on the book without spoiling it at this point.
I was having a hard time saying it too. Like, I finally, while I was just doing it just now, figured out how not to spoil the end of the first issue. But now that nobody can get it, I don't have to pitch it anymore.
I got to walk away, because if I start talking about it, I'm going to tell people things that will be counterproductive here. And we've all seen that my brain is not firing on all cylinders like normal.
But you can again,
so let's go back to when you were first getting started. How did you guys each come to be at Source Point?
You want to go, Frank?
I'll go first. So this is a longer question than I think you're thinking. So I'll try and do like a broad strokes Cliff Notes version. At the end of 2015, I was at a job that I absolutely hated. And it was a good job, paid well, great benefits. The work came easily to me, but I wasn't happy or fulfilled. Had a long conversation with my then girlfriend, now wife, about what I might do next to find something a little more fulfilling. And that conversation took like a left turn I didn't expect, and ended with her telling me to take a year off of work and focus on comics, because that's what I wanted to do. So for the entire year of 2016, I didn't work a full-time job. I did some freelancing stuff on the side to keep money rolling in and to make sure I was pulling my weight around the house. But essentially, 2016 was button seat, studying, writing comics. I did a few classes with Comics Experience, which was a big part of it. Andy Schmidt over there has been a really great mentor and friend to me. And during 2016, I wrote a book called Grief. It's a short story collection about the grieving process, kind of through sci-fi and horror stories. And while I was learning to write and doing all that work in 2016, I was also going to a lot of conventions to do networking. I was talking to somebody about this morning. The two things that really got me going were sitting down to do the work and going to cons and meeting other creators and publishers. And I went to a bunch of the big shows, C2E2, New York, Baltimore, introduced myself to all the small press people, met all the artists who were kind of a little further along than me, but kind of still batting at my level. And it's kind of funny. I ended up at Source Point, not because I chose to pitch there or anything like that. Andy, who runs Comics Experience, was talking with Travis about a co-branded Comics Experience in Source Point Press, and he, on my behalf, pitched Grief as one of the first round of books, and Travis picked it up. So I was at New York Comic Con in 2016, and 2017 at this point, and I walked up to the Source Point booth, talked to Travis, and about halfway through the conversation, he stopped me in the middle of a sentence and said, what'd you say your name was? And I was like, it's Frank Gogol. And he's like, oh yeah, I just read your book. We're going to pick it up. I'm like, no, you're having some kind of stroke or dementia. You clearly look like you have dementia. And he's like, Grief, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah. Andy sent it to us and we're going to pick it up. And we finished that conversation. I walked away, thought I was having a nervous breakdown on New York Comic Con's show floor. But the next spring, in April of 2018, the book came out at C2E2, and like it's been a done deal ever since. Just put out Dead End Kids after that, No Heroin, Dead End Kids 2. I have another book coming this summer, and like it's been a really productive relationship. I don't want to call it a relationship because, like I said, Travis is a friend and some kind of like cross between like a really shitty older brother and a dad. Like he's been good to me. Source Point has been good to me.
Your big beardy uncle.
I mean, it's even
Gym
more.
teacher?
It's more gym teacher.
That's gym teacher's more accurate.
Like the gym teacher from Big Mel.
But somehow more gross.
I can see Travis working at the Patrick Ewing Brewing Company.
You gotta go. But yeah,
That was deep cut.
that's how I got involved. That's how I got started. And then I saw that as kind of my shot. Like, I was at C2E2. It was my first con ever. Travis was giving me all these pep talks because he thinks he knows better than everybody, and he does. But he was like, listen, it really doesn't matter how many you sell. You got a weird little book. It's going to have a niche audience. If you sell a few copies, that's a win. And we were like, all right, let's see if we can move 20 of them by the end of the weekend. All right, let's shoot for 7 a day because it was a 3-day show. And we ended up selling 25 the first day and almost 70 by the end of the weekend. And it's equal parts the people who love SourcePoint coming up to the booth and just buying whatever they have, because there are some diehard people. I've been at cons where people come up and just give me one of everything you've published since the last time I saw you. And then, just watching Casey and other people sell and doing what they did, putting the book in people's hands and making them give me their money. It's almost a form of harassment.
Have you ever done the Garrett Gunn method where you beg someone to take it off your hands so that Travis will buy you a dinner? Because that's happened.
I've seen Garrett unsell his book though.
It's true.
He'll hand sell it. The person will be going to pay him like, nah, you don't want this. You don't want this. Go talk.
I call it it's the Christy Blanche approach. Blanche.
I just my copy of Franklin and Ghost #1 I got because Travis was trying to win a bet with, or Garrett was trying to win a bet with Travis, and get a steak dinner, or was it lobster?
It's something fancy. We were in Michigan, so I'm not sure that anything that fancy is served.
Potatoes. I don't know what's in Michigan either.
I don't know. It's a bunch of weird hot dogs or something. I don't know.
Travis does like hot dogs.
Yeah,
it's true. No, like I said, that was what hooked me on Garrett though, was the fact that he's like, look, I had already placed my order for Franklin and Ghost #1. The book was sold to me as a retailer. He's like, no, you got to take this copy, because if you take this copy, then I get
Travis. Yes, and Travis loses, which in any instance is great.
It's a win, huge win.
Yes.
Great sales technique.
Yeah, yes.
So Garrett, how did you come to be at SourcePoint?
In 2016, I had made a relatively famous friend by the name of Billy Bob Thornton, and I, had gotten to know his band and the other bandmates and stuff that he was, playing with. And I had this weird idea for a book at the time. It was called Hardcore Mega Metal. And it was kind of like Scott Pilgrim meets The Hobbit. And it was like this weird band of this group of people who played music, and they use these weird gifts that they're given to go out on this adventure. And I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I can't afford to hire a fake band and record fake music and do all this stuff. So that's super stupid. And my friend told me, who'd really dig doing a comic book is Billy Bob Thornton. And I think we lost Kyle.
All right.
I just took myself off the screen because I needed to bend over and grab something.
Got it. So he was like, oh, Billy would really love this idea. And I said, all right, cool. So I did a little bit of a rewrite of the story and sent it to him. And I was like, I'll never hear back. It's whatever. And 2 hours later, he's like, Billy's going to call you. And I was like, oh, fuck. So we had this conversation. He was super into it. I was like, all right, cool. Now I need to find a publisher to publish this. And I had reached out to multiple publishers that, through research I'd found had some experience with dealing with personality-based things, things that were centered around celebrities or music groups or whatever. And finally, Bob Sally told me, he was like, I just pitch it to SourcePoint. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know. These guys seem weird. And the first conversation I had when I pitched this book to Travis is when he said, we don't do time travel, we don't do superheroes. So I was like, well, this is a time travel book. And he was like, I was like, but Billy Bob Thornton's in it, and he endorses it. And he was like, fine, I guess. And he published it. And that was the first thing. And then after that, it was Franklin a Ghost and Warcorns and Cold Dead Hands and now Good Boy and everything in between. But that was it. I came to Source Point through my first disappointment that I placed in Travis, basically. And I haven't stopped since.
First of many.
First of many.
So we've got about 10 minutes left here, guys. So let's do the business. Let's do the work here. What do you have coming up in the next year that you can tell people about? What should people be getting their orders in on now? What should people be getting on their pull list? That kind of stuff.
You want to go first, Frankie boy?
I'll go first. So this year, first up, we've got Dead End Kids: A Suburban Job. Like I said, that's coming out starting at the end of this month, and I'll run through April. By the time that ends, we'll be talking about the next book. It's a horror sci-fi thing that's not announced yet, but it's an older idea. I had it in 2017 or 2016. It's essentially aliens with a hint of another franchise that I really love for like a really fun mashup that really kind of bucks horror conventions. It's a really bright book. Garrett's seen some of the art, and it's definitely not what you'd expect from a horror book. On top of that, I have something at my first work for hire gig, which is a one-shot, it's 40 pages, on a property that is super important to me. It's one of the biggest properties in comics right now. I can't really say any more than that, or I'll give it away. But I'm really excited about that. That should be announced in the spring and come out over the summer, I think, give or take a few months. And then, the rest of the year is just, it's a lot of writing. I'm looking to have a big 2022, and we're still stuck in the house for who knows how long. So I'm trying to do the Garrett Gunn and just bang things out and get stuff rolling. No Heroine 2 is going to happen sooner or later. I'm writing that right now. It's just going to come down to when Sean is almost a lock. I just got to make sure that the story that I have is the one I want to tell. I think it'll be the last one. And then there's a lot of new projects coming. I have a few Kickstarters I'm planning, kind of trying to keep diverse and keep stuff coming out.
Garrett?
Yeah. So I have currently in previews, the Warcorns miniseries is available for pre-order. We're on issue 3 this month, and then issue 4, the final book, is in previews the following month. And that was sort of, the Warcorns miniseries was kind of my way after the unexpected success of the first one shot to be like, all right, let's Quentin Tarantino this, let's go back now. And let's start at the beginning and let's see like how these guys, these losers became the Warcorns. So it's a 4-issue miniseries introducing a lot of new characters that are going to be very important in the TV show and throughout the Franklin and Ghost universe as a whole. The following month, I think in March, we have the solicit for the collected edition of Cold Dead Hands, which, if I'm honest, was probably the most fun I had on all of 2020 writing a book, because it was very different from a lot of the stuff I had written. I don't do a lot of supernatural stuff. So it was kind of freeing to be able to just be like, hey, plot hole, magic. That's it right there. So we got the Cold Dead Hands Collect Editions coming out. And then we have a slew of other things that are being released this year. I've got the Warcorns Birthday Bash comes out in May through previews, which is a one-shot that's sort of an event-based comic meant around launching a bunch of other things that are coming later in the year and into 2022. I've got, as we discussed, the new book with Christy Blanche, Good Boy, which will be released via the Source Point Press Ashcan subscription box, which is available on their website right now. And that book is essentially John Wick in reverse, told from the perspective of the dog who is avenging the death, getting revenge for the murder of his owner. And then I've got a bunch of other things going on. As Frank loves to point out, I've got like 400 million logos of books that are currently in production. I've got Postmasters, which is Postman meets Mad Max. I've got Blade of the Butchered King, which is a novelette that I'm writing right now. And a bunch of other bullshit that I'm sure will just be ammunition for Frank to put me down.
I can't wait.
I really didn't think when you said Postmasters, there was going to be a follow-up to Boxmasters about people who deliver the mail.
So Postmasters, I thought it'd be really funny to do sort of this. I worked for like 2 weeks at the post office, and that is the most like disgustingly like awful place to work. But I've had an idea for a while of like sort of this Book of Eli sort of story where, you know, what if like mailmen never, like, you know, the creed of the mailman, right? Like nor rain nor sleet nor dark of night, very Green Lantern shit. You know, they have to deliver the mail no matter what. So I'm like, okay, well, what happens if like letter carriers die? Like, do the routes just get bigger and like you just have to carry mail everywhere? So this book is sort of like the journey of one mailman as he's like delivering this sort of very important piece of mail cross country, and in a post-COVID world where COVID's sort of a virus, and the, you know, the anti-maskers have become the wicked, which, you know, they're basically, the virus took over their body, and it's a whole thing. It's a lot of fun, very ridiculous, but also very serious, you know, pieces of it that are ties to actual social issues we're encountering right now. So yeah. And look at, and Izzy is here to remind me, and also Familiars. I wasn't going to say anything about Familiars yet because we're sort of like, we're still trying to tease a little bit. I do a book, as you can see on my hat, called Familiars that comes out this year, which is adult Pokemon. It is violent, dark, ridiculous Pokemon. And Izzy's Comics and Collectibles will be the sole exclusive store that will be selling the Ashcan, like, you know, early release preview of the book. So in order to get the first like 16 pages, you have to buy it through Izzy's to get, like, you know, an idea of what the story is. But yeah, it's adult dark Pokemon.
So, you know, I always try and come at you with a weird, off the wall, fun question. And since you just talked about adult weird Pokemon,
okay,
favorite Pokemon?
Mimikyu. And
really,
I know Frank's Nidoking. Yep.
He's got him in front of him.
I was right. They sit on my desk to remind me that I need.
Yep. I've got Pokemon tattooed on me. You know, as everybody at SourcePoint loves to make fun of, Pokemon is a huge part of my life. It's part of the reason why I've now gotten to work with Pokemon actors from when I was a kid and stuff. You know, people who don't know and probably don't care, Mimikyu is, you know, that character is very strangely special to me because it sort of relates to how I feel about being in comics. You know, there's a whole conspiracy theory about back in the 90s, there was an episode of Pokemon that this character Porygon was in that gave like 600 kids in Japan seizures. And like, it was like a big lawsuit and crazy stuff against Pokemon. And Pokemon ended up banning that character from the show for 20 years. Because that was like part of the lawsuit. They were like, well, we can't blame it on Pikachu because he's the face of Pokemon. So we've got to ban it. We've got to blame it on this other character. 20 years later, this new character, Mimikyu, comes up. He's a ghost. If you
comics right now, I can't really say.
So
that character is very strangely special to me because it sort of relates to how I feel about being in comics. You know, there's a whole conspiracy theory about back in the 90s, there was an episode of Pokemon that this character Porygon was in that gave like 600 kids in Japan seizures. And like, it was like a big lawsuit and crazy stuff against Pokemon. And Pokemon ended up banning that character from the show for 20 years. Because that was like part of the lawsuit. They were like, well, we can't blame it on Pikachu because he's the face of Pokemon. So we've got to ban it. We've got to blame it on this other character. 20 years later, this new character, Mimikyu, comes up. He's a ghost. If you see his true identity, it kills you. And so he hides behind this mask of, you know, being the most liked Pokemon in the world, which is Pikachu. And he wears this, you know, creepy Pikachu face because he wants to be accepted in the world and doesn't want to kill anybody else. Or doesn't want to hurt anyone. And to me, that's us as a society, right? Like, we all wear these fake masks to try to be liked by people and try to be, you know, like those that people love. And I think that's you know, that's constantly how I feel in this industry is, you know, trying to wear a mask so that people will, like my things or buy my things or respect me as a writer because I constantly have the most insane imposter syndrome ever. But yeah, Pokemon is the shit, man. That's it. Like, gave you like so much more than you needed, but it's your fault because you brought it up.
Well, I feel like you and I could get into the weeds like Travis and I do on GoBots. So, on Pokemon, but last thing here before we got to wrap it up is we've got about a minute left. Hit us with the socials.
Yeah.
So all my stuff is at Some Writer Guy. If you can't remember who wrote some stupid book, I don't know, Some Writer Guy on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the things.
Awesome. Frank?
Everything like Garrett is all in one place. It's just at Frank Gogol /Frank Gogol, Facebook.com/Frank Gogol, Twitter.com/Frank Gogol, at Frank Gogol, Instagram at Frank Gogol. I try to keep it simple. I got in early, got my actual name. So that's always a plus. And then I do a newsletter every few weeks. It's like every 2 or 3 weeks. There's signups to submit submissions for that, or to subscribe to that on Twitter and Instagram, and I post on Facebook all the time. That's the best way to keep up. There's no algorithms or any bullshit to stop you from getting it right to your inbox. So, yep, whatever, pick your poison. But I definitely recommend the newsletter.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you check out both Garrett and Frank's work, or Frank's and Garrett's work, so nobody gets top billing. Through SourcePoint Press, get it in your local comic shop. Go there right now and tell them you want it, because their FOCs are due today. So you should be calling during the break here, calling your local comic shop, being like, hey, if you're not done, order books. So
and can I throw one quick little solicit out for SourcePoint as a whole? So SourcePoint has just launched the Ashcan subscription box. It's $9.99 a month shipped to your door, and every month you get a brand new Ashcan teasing a new character, new story, tie-ins to other books, etc. And you can sign up for that at tinyurl.com/Ashcan program if you want to check it out, or going to oxymedia.com.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Guys, everybody stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes with more legends. We've had a bunch of legends on, including these new legends, Garrett.